Hey there, my name is Kendrick, and today I get to interview Christopher. So, Christopher, welcome.
Yeah, hello.
So, Christopher, can you please let everyone know your full type?
Oh yes. So my type is INTJ, FF, NI, well, yeah, NITE, blast, sleep, play, consume, and social type, probably number one, maybe number three, a little loosey-goosey on that.
Gotcha. And what did you think and how did you feel when you got your typing results back?
Oh, that's a good question. So that was like I think it was 3 years ago. I was trying to think about the timeline actually last night. Um, that was part of the reason why I couldn't fall asleep because I was sitting there projecting into the interview. I was like thinking of all these questions that might come up. But anyway, so yeah, I got my type quite a while back, and I remember I feel like I was like 2 years, um, kind of around the OPS YouTube videos and such, and I was processing my type with a friend, and he ended up getting type before me, and we thought he was an INFJ, and he ended up being an INTP. So that I feel like there's more processing that actually went into that because then I realized that we were both not like we weren't grounded in how we were typing ourselves. So then I feel like my type kind of got thrown up in the air. We were thinking I was the INTP, and so I kind of went through a couple of different iterations of type, and I think it was a week before I got the typing results. I don't know what it was, but there was like there was a part of me where I was thinking I was blast last, and then I was like I like figured I got my type wrong. So then I started thinking about it. I'm like, maybe what's going on here isn't a blast last thing. Maybe it's a consume last thing. And since they're both info animals, like um uh like there's similar things going on, but not the exact same results of consume last, or excuse me, blast last. So anyway, so I got my type back, and I figured I just like swapped a couple of the coins that I thought I was, and I was like, I think I'll just assume I'm an ISTJ, even just because that I'll be like mentally prepared, and if anything can hit me at that point, because I was thinking me and my friend, I think were thinking I was like the classic like NITI blast last that everybody thinks they are. Um, and so I was like, I'll just go with ISTJ, then I'll nothing can surprise me because I don't expect that. And it was actually pretty close. It was so I feel like it was like 45 minutes of processing, and I was like, this makes sense. This is good. Yeah.
Oh, I see. Did you type yourself also as like a blast, sleep, play, consume ISTJ then before you got your typing results?
I
Something like
think so. I can't quite remember because it was such a short period of time, but I was probably something similar to that. Yeah. Because, well, yeah, I was thinking specifically, I don't think I cared too much about the middle animals. I was thinking blast first, consume last.
Oh, I see, I see. Well,
Hmm.
I don't think you could have swapped them anyways. So,
Yeah.
it would have had to be blast, sleep, play, consume. There was no other you can't swap. Well, I guess you could be blast, play, consume, sleep. Or
Yeah, yeah, that's what I was saying. I was thinking maybe I could be one or the other depending on the two middle, but yeah.
I see, I see. Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Hmm.
Although the sleep saver is kind of obvious when you keep saying like I don't want to be surprised,
Yeah,
because
yeah, yeah.
the blast plays I think would be kind of a little bit more cool with that than the blast.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, and also makes sense why you don't have your social type, because it was 3 years ago. I guess your social type's being reviewed right now.
Yeah, me and Dave were having a little back and forth that had absolutely nothing to do with social type. And then he told me like he said like next week, send me your typing video and I'll take a look at it. I didn't even want that. I didn't really care. But I was like, okay, sure. So I sent it to him, and I don't know if he'll get back to me and how busy he is, but Dave might get back to me on it and give me his opinion.
Cool. And what makes you think you are a social type one, like from your own perspective, before obviously this is not official because you haven't got it back yet, but
Yeah, so I was actually just explaining this to a friend yesterday. Um, Here's actually an interesting way to frame it. So I was listening to yesterday and the day before. I didn't finish it the day before, but um, I was listening to your interview. interview or conversation with Benjamin on your channel from like 7 months ago, I think it was. And he mentioned how the friends he was making the distinction between how the ego for him was something to overcome in order to get to the friends. And that like really hit me as a very good explanation. I actually want to go back and I want to write down exactly what he said so I can get the specifics. But um, that really made me realize I feel very much like it's the exact opposite, where like, even though I'm not super duper activated DE, I'm activated enough that I feel like the friends is something to overcome to get to what I actually want. And I feel like I'm constantly like there's like a very tense internal struggle and friction between like go hang out with people and just really at the end of the day I feel like a lot of the time I just want to be alone. I want to get away from people and I want to do my own thing. And usually very it's all like ego driven. Like there are people I can compare myself to and then I can become better than them or whatever, kind of playing that game. So
Right. I guess that makes sense why you would think you're either a 1 or a 3. Like those two would be the one that makes the most sense, potentially.
yeah.
Although I can relate to what you said though, because I'm also a DE, right? So, the friends or the family or peers in general has to be overcome to get to what I want. But for me, the way I think about it is like, how can I sneak away from them so I can do what I want,
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Although you do have demon play, so that could also be your demon play speaking. So it's
Yeah, 100%.
yeah, it's a little bit
That's why I have it kind of reserved because I'm just like I feel like I'm not like I'm just not a pro. I don't know. So
yeah. Just from your NF vibe, honestly, um, you feel like you're a 3. That's just the vibe I'm getting. That's just
yeah.
from people who've interviewed like so many people. Because the energy of the 1 and the 3 is quite different. And
Yeah.
the energy that I'm getting from you, and again, this is woo BS, but whatever,
Yeah, yeah,
I'm
I
making
know.
save your state. It's okay. You have it second. Your vibe is just for me, the vibe that you give off is 3. Like you give me a 3 vibe for some reason. For some reason, I don't. There's no rationale around it. It's just that you seem to give me that vibe. But
Yeah.
regardless, demon friends, right? Yeah.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say I could go on a little bit about the generalize. That's something I see pretty heavily where I feel like I'm obligated to I feel like I'm obligated to be responsible, like dip my toe into everything. So it's like the brakes need to be changed on my car. I need to learn how to change the brakes. I have that true story. I've done that before. I got my brother to help me, but he knows more about cars, so it's mostly so I didn't kill myself. But then also like there's a leak on the valve cover gaskets. I'm like, I don't like I want to change it first, and then next time if there's another leak, then I'll bring it to a professional because I want like, and that could be something else going on, but I feel like there's a lot of where like if anything comes up, I want to do it first to understand it and have like a general overview of how to do that thing a little bit. I want to like dip my toe into every little thing I can and have a little like I don't know, maybe that's not generalized. You can kind of give me your opinion on that, but
I mean, yeah, that could make sense for social type 1 in terms of having generalists activated for sure. But then that could also mean you could be a 2 or a 4, because then now you can be anything. Because for maybe because twos, that's what twos want to do, right? You know. But then I was thinking, if you're 1, do you want to do that? Because once the way I see ones is like they have a goal and they're gonna go after it. Anything else is noise and they're gonna outsource it to someone else, even if they, could potentially just do it themselves. If it has nothing to do with boosting up their either their status or their ultimate number 1 goal for their identity, there's no point of doing it. They're more focused almost like to that sense. Well, like the fact that you want to do what you said you want to do in terms of fixing the car, that's like a number 2 kind of distraction. Like number 2 is getting distracted, so it's kind of like
yeah.
you're letting yourself get distracted uh away from the identity goals almost. So I don't know.
Yeah. Just to like this is all theoretical, but just to like push back a little bit, I feel like I feel like I kind of have a personal philosophy that subsumes all of life. So for me, I'm like, I see anything that I hate to do um, as an opportunity for me to make myself better. So with changing brakes, I don't want to change brakes. I like, especially going and like, buying them, doing that. Like, I feel like that might be like consume stuff. I don't want to do that. I don't want to go to the store. I don't want to buy the brakes, order them, or anything like that. But at the end of the day, it's like I feel like I have to because otherwise I will look at myself and be like, oh, you couldn't do that thing. And so yeah, I don't know if that changes anything, but just yeah, I don't
I
know.
mean, the only thing that tells me is like that's a you want to practice your last animal, which is good. Consume last, right?
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
or maybe your play is it's ST, right? Like actually getting actual physical work done. So it could
Mm-hmm.
also be play. But hard to say at this point. But anyways, let's go over your parts, man. Let's start with your first
Yeah.
animal. Maybe your first animal. Anti-blast. Okay, and double activated anti-blast. How do you feel about that? And how do you personally experience it? And how do you see yourself providing ready-made, solution already ready to be presented to the tribe? Because essentially it's a solution that would work for a lot of situations, right?
Yeah. Um, to be honest, I feel like the blast to me presents itself more in regards to like productivity. I feel like that's where a lot of the output for blast for me is it's like I constantly have an internal checklist in my head. It's constantly being reordered depending on what I get done in the day. And I'm like, gotta get this done, gotta get this done. And I feel like it's for the kind of like fake tribe in the back of my head that aren't actually there. I feel like that's where I see a lot of the blast. And then to go over and maybe answer your question a little bit better, as far as the advice thing goes, I feel like that just it comes out and then I feel like it kind of just goes like I'll occasionally have those like really short bits because like with I believe his name was Johnson that you did last time, or I don't know, maybe you have another video in the works, but the other INTJ, he mentioned that, or he mentioned that his blast was very much like just kind of like waiting, 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 and then he just give like because he's blast sleep, it would be like a very short. Maybe you mentioned that, but it would be like a very, very, very short, and then just like done. And I feel like that's something I've very much experienced. Is it's like on occasion, sometimes if something happens to fall within an area of expertise, and I feel like um I'm like have enough in that area, then I'll share that. And on occasion, I feel like it's especially with the play to kind of ramble on another tangent where I feel like I really overstep my bounds, and I feel like when I'm playing, the consume last hits me harder, where I like talk way out of my like knowledge base of like I feel like that's where like the answers from God kind of stuff comes from, and I don't know why. But I feel like when I'm like in a group of people and we're all like having a conversation and people are cutting each other off and it's just like chaos, and then I'll just like come out with these like crazy just like, oh, I know the answer to that. And then like 5 minutes later, somebody else is like, that's not right. And I'm like, oh crap. But anyway, so that's a little bit of a ramble there, but yeah.
But I guess you don't take it personally if someone says that's not right because it's TE at the end of the day, right? And you're like, okay, whatever.
No,
Or do you? Or do you?
I definitely take it as an ego hit. That's like the last thing I want to see is getting something wrong. Not for the sake of the information, but for the sake of like I need to make sure if I'm blasting something, especially, and I feel like if I feel like I'm blasting something, like I feel like I've put the burden on myself to try to catch myself where I'm like absolutely 100% on point with that. Or like it's information that I'm so used to that being a little bit wrong, like I'm okay with it. So it's like very much I need to I need to hit my own standards for how I blast and get things right, I guess.
Oh, I see. I see. Gotcha.
Yeah. Yeah.
The thing that you said earlier about your advice being in short bits because it's super processed already because you're blast sleep, right? You're not the blast. It reminds me of my interview again with your type twin in the past. Type twin without the social type. Vivian. So she is also the exact same type as you. I interviewed her a long time ago. Blast sleep, play, consume, double feminine also. So I was wondering, I'm like, she's double activated blast, but she's not talking that much. Because I had her in a one-on-one interview and also in panel interviews, and her answer seems to be like drop and leave kind of deal. And it's like you're double activated blast. Why is it drop? Why does it feel so drop and leave? And I guess it's the sleep. It's heavily processed already, right? So so there's no reason to ramble on when it's already perfectly concisely organized, Now I want to talk about your next animal. Very interestingly enough, it's a very feeler heavy animal. Double masculine NF sleep. This is where your identities come from. Can you share a little bit about this particular animal of yours?
Oh, can I actually back up and talk about the blast? I just thought of
Sure.
a good example
Go ahead.
for that. I remember one time I was like probably like 17 or something, and I feel like particularly with the N like blast, I feel like it's a very like drop and leave, but there's also like so many lacking details, especially with me, that people like I feel like it's almost like feels like a bait sometimes where I'll drop it and the full understanding is not there. It's like the conclusion to whatever is going on. And then it's almost like a bait where somebody's like, that doesn't make any sense. And then it's like, oh, you fell for my trap. Then I get to go like full blast on them and explain all the details along like how I got to that. And then they're like, it's like, ha, you're dumb. I knew what I was talking about. Like that's what it feels like to me. There was so the example was it wasn't quite like that. But I was at a camp when I was like 17 or something like that, and there was a bunch of teenage boys in there in this little cabin, and we were talking about like historical and archaeological like evidence and things like that. And I said something um like I said you can't really prove anything. And like that's a very controversial statement just to say. And there's one guy who's like, no. In that example, I had a lot more in my head and I didn't quite have it all processed, so I couldn't do the later, and like shower thoughts. I was like, oh, I could have came back with this. But what I was talking about is the fact that when it comes to historical things, we literally at this point in time cannot go back and prove anything historical. We're only making best guesses off of the evidence we find. So at the end of the day, for all we know, aliens came and they planted life on Earth 500 years ago and they made it look like people lived here for so long. And then, we think we have a history and we don't, it's like that kind of a thing. Does that make sense?
I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying.
Yeah, okay.
I don't know if I agree with it, but I get what you're saying.
Oh, I'm curious. Why do you disagree?
What's that?
Why do you disagree?
I mean, I get what you're saying that, history can be fabricated because we're not actually there. So we never actually saw it and, never really experienced it. So I get what you're trying to say. I disagree more from my trust in the scientists in terms of like,
Okay.
the, what do you call it? Like the carbon dating and all that stuff. Like
Oh, yeah.
yeah. And like how they can measure all that stuff. I don't know it because I don't have the deep knowledge of the ST for that. But I do trust that they would know it better than me because I'm not a double observer, I'm a single observer.
Yeah. Okay, no, we're in total agreement. I don't think the aliens thing was an example. I don't actually think anything in history is fabricated. My point is just that, and here's another good example of like I need to really clarify what I'm talking about here. My point is just that history is something we can't know in the same way we know like we can't measure it the same way we can measure like the rocks outside right now.
Yeah.
It in some regards, in some historical events. But
Right.
anyway.
Yeah, I got your
Okay,
point.
so
I
yeah.
completely agree with your point. Like it is true. What you said is true.
Yeah.
The truth of it though is different, but like the actual
Yeah.
the concept makes sense. So
Exactly.
yeah. So
Anyway, we could move on to sleep now. I felt like maybe that was worth saying, but
yeah, it's fine. It's fine. NF sleep, double masculine.
Mhm.
Let's hear it and then we'll cover the different parts of it.
Yeah. So That's a bit of a weird one because it's like, since it's NF vibe, it kind of is nothing at the end of the day in some sense. It's like I feel like there are moments where I like I'm like really deep in the NF vibing, especially in like the sleep where I'm processing. And I feel like once it's over, it's like just like poof, gone, and I don't even know what happened or what was going on. But I just like feel like I'm ready to go and I got everything figured out. So one thing that I would say, I don't know if anybody else, I feel like I've heard Dave say something similar. He calls like the functions that I have like he said something like they're like the like like very kind of like not barbaric, that's not the word I'm looking for, but like a like very like um yeah, maybe barbaric's a good word, but I feel like the NF sleep specifically for me is like it feels like a very like visceral um like almost like I'm presenting myself as double feminine in the world, and then like on the inside it's like I would really say like it feels like there's like Satan energy behind me. I have like a little Satan down in there, and he's like, or he's not little, he feels very big inside, but he's just not like, there's just like a whole amount of like um yeah, just like my own vibes that I've built up over the years. And maybe that's probably specific to me, I guess, being as it is, it's two introverted functions, it's personal, but it feels like there's like a demon beast inside of me coming, like ready to come out and eat everybody, but it never does. That's honestly the best description I have overall of like my experience with it.
I can relate. I have double mask and sleep also. So
Oh, that's right, you do. Okay, yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, I've actually called it no one can handle the beast,
Mhm.
so that's I've said the word beast. I don't say demon, so I guess I don't have the demonic side like you do.
Yeah,
That's like the NF. The NF is the demonic side. It has like an extra
yeah.
um but yeah, I totally understand it. Um what about the recurring emotional patterns that you experience, like the NIFI, the exact NIFI, because the NI is the pattern, the FI is the emotion, right? So what
Mhm.
what what specific emotion or emotions do you see is like recurring for you that happens? No one can see it, it's just you, because obviously it's FI. Have you ever given that any thought where it's like, oh, it could be anger, it could be jealousy, it could be joy, it could be gratitude, it could be, um, you know, anything in between, essentially. So, is there any specific emotion that is recurring for you? And I can give you some examples, but I want to hear it from your perspective.
Yeah, I think I can kind of like not answer that, but answer that in a weird way. So it feels like because that's my masculine, and because I'm constantly like the way I see it is I'm constantly like doing NT over here and trying to figure everything out. And then I can't remember like crap about what I actually logicked out. Like I feel like I'm constantly like re-going over like I would only describe it as like neuron connections in my brain that just won't hold. Like I'm constantly going through the same logic. I could literally like go on Discord with a friend and I'll like logic something out and I can go look up. I'm like I'm getting deja vu when I'm done with the conversation. I can go look up and I had this same conclusion like a year ago or something. So it feels like there's a lot of where the the NT isn't sticking and then it goes down and I'm just trying to track my emotional state towards the conclusions I have is what it feels like. So I'm like, what are the conclusions that like hit me? And then I can like I'm trying to like track the things through the vibe that I get, I guess, like the self feeling. So I don't know if I really would. I almost feel like it's like a disservice to the NF sleep to like describe like what are the specific emotions. It's just like I don't know if I went through a day like I could go and I could like pick out all of the little NF states that I have because like I'm like I know this feeling, 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 and then I have like protocols, little like NI protocols of like what do you do with this feeling, what do you do with this feeling, and then kind of like run through that for instance, like if I can feel myself getting like triggered by the SE, um then I there's like a very specific protocol of like where my brain goes like I don't have anything to do today. This like distraction or this thing that came up that's stopping me from getting back to my blast. It's like it's okay. I can throw the rest of the whole day away. Things could be worse. I could be in a hospital bed, you know, or whatever. So I have like specific things I go through to like calm myself down. So I feel like that would be, I guess that would be one example that comes to mind. I can't really tangibly think of too many others, but like when like stress and triggered feelings come up, it's like I know the state, and then I have like a couple, depending on what kind of a trigger it is, I have protocols that I go through to kind of like hopefully change my vibe, I guess. So
Oh my God, dude, you are such the pure blood intuitive, like the
yeah.
sleep, the blast and sleep. Like you won't go to the concrete. You just don't want to. Um,
No, here's the thing. Here's the thing. I'm trying so hard to think of anything concrete, but that's the problem is I can't remember anything concrete. Like there's just nothing there.
Fair enough.
It's so hard because that's another thing. I feel like with the black like with the consume last version, I feel like people can get the idea that I'm like missing details because I'm consumed last. It's like, no, I literally cannot remember the details to whatever I'm explaining to you. Um, and then an example I can give is you look like you really want to pitch in. Go ahead.
No, because I'm just listening to you talk and stuff, and I'm comparing you to my girlfriend. My girlfriend is also a double feminine INTJ, except she's
Mhm.
sleep first, right? And then
Oh,
I'm
okay.
Yeah, and I'm just comparing both of you guys. So you're blast sleep, right? And blast sleep means, intuition plus intuition, right? And then you have a sensory third you're playing, right? And then I was just thinking about her. She's sleep consume, play blast. So for her, it's like intuitive, sensory, and then intuitive again. So
Mhm.
there's like a feat on the sensory side. And then I'm
Mhm.
just thinking about what you're saying right now about your experience. And I'm thinking about her experience. And I'm like, if I ask her the same question about her reoccurring emotional patterns, she would be able to sensorily tell me the emotional
Mhm.
pattern she's experiencing because she has 1 feet in the sensory world with the SF consume, right?
Mhm.
But then I'm watching you right now and I'm like, oh God, Chris can't do it because he doesn't have any feet into the sensory world. They're all deep.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
that's what I was thinking, and I'm just gonna say that there is a sensory word for what you're feeling. It's just that I guess you haven't used your SF consume yet to observe yourself and then concretely have the word for that emotion. You know, so that's
Oh,
all.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. No, like yeah, no, I don't want to go look up the words to those emotions. That would be too much time.
yeah. But I think it would serve you. That's what I would that's what I would think because then you would know
Yeah.
exactly which emotion that is, and you could keep the good ones and you can throw away the bad ones and create a new emotional pattern, right? That serves you, you know. Um, but yeah, because if I asked her the same question, she would quickly tell me, it's like, okay, what's your recurring emotional pattern? And my girlfriend would be able to be like, oh, self-doubt, imposter syndrome. Like, those are the things that she would be able to say, right? And then I'm like, okay, well, she's processed the emotion and also because remember, hers NF and SF, right? While yours is like NT and then NF. So everything's like running through the NT programming, right? Which I can
Mhm.
relate. I'm lead NT like yourself. So
Yeah.
I can relate to that. But I was thinking, I was like, oh, you haven't taken a deep dive into the F world as much, that's what it feels like. And it makes sense because like if I were to look at both of our types, oh, your FI is third, my FI is second. And in my interview with Dave, a month or two ago, he did say, oh, the order of the function still matters a lot. The fact I have it second, even though I'm double activated, like extroverted, like play blast, it's like, oh, you're still gonna be able to see it. Well, you have it third, so unless you actually have like a double activation of the FI, it could be a little bit more challenging. So you do have access to the NF world, but the SF world is like, what? I can't, So anyways, that's just my point. I'm not trying to make fun of you, just an observation.
Oh yeah, no. No, you're good. I do like I feel like where I'm at right now, as far as the NF is, I would just have to go and get like labels for the
Right.
specific emotions that I get throughout the day. But I feel like I'm like very it I don't know, you just said something that made me like think maybe you didn't get this part, but maybe you did. But like I feel like like I'm very familiar with my own emotions, and I can I know which one is coming. I know I'm very familiar with the feeling, and then like I have like very specific like choice points where I could choose what to do with that emotion. And then I would really say the only part is I just don't go around talking about it too much, so I don't have any need to like be like, here's what this emotion is, here's what this emotion is, which maybe that's part of what you're saying is I need to go and like talk about it more with people, and then I'd get a little bit better like specific wording or whatever. But anyway, I'm rambling.
No, no. I mean, I understand what you're saying, and I believe you because you do have it second. So I 100%
Mhm.
believe that what you're saying is actually happening internally and whatnot. But maybe you should talk about it though, because it will create depth in your character, right? You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
instead of just NT, right? It's like, okay,
Yeah.
let me talk in a different language. It's kind of like, oh, you can speak English, Spanish, Mandarin, whatever, right? It's like, oh, like if you only talk in NT, then it kind of feels one dimensional. But if you go NT 1 second and then now you talk about NF and then ST, right? And it's like, oh, like as someone like you who wants to be good at everything, kind of like the generalist thing that you were mentioning earlier. It's like, oh, what if you get fluent at the other language of your animals? You know what I mean? That's just
Mhm.
this is my perspective.
Yeah, yeah, no, that makes sense.
Yeah. Um, Part of the NF sleep also is having a personal code that you adhere to. Do you have anything in particular that you would like to share about your code, or I don't know,
Um,
taking the time to
I-
look into that?
yeah, I feel like there's like a like a hierarchy of um codes, and I couldn't like I don't have them all written down or anything, so they're like they just show up when they show up. And um so it's like there's like the highest one I hold to, which I kind of described earlier with the sort of generalist description that I mentioned, where but I feel like that's like part of it. I feel like the one of the codes I live by as of probably like the one I live by the most is rather than rather than trying to, I guess, like, because I feel like I guess to give the backstory, I feel like for most of my life up until I was like 19, I realized what I was trying to do is I was trying to figure out how to live life. Like that's all I was doing was just the NT of life. And I was like, what's the one way to live life and to fit? Like, what's the philosophies that I can like the like one philosophy that I can use to fit into everything, and it'll like explain it. Like it's like the theory of everything, but in terms of if you're familiar with that in science, but it's like the theory of everything for how somebody should live a life. Um, and so then I took that and I tried to kind of make a adjustment to it where now it's like now my goal is to just live life and to maybe figure out how to live it along the way, but I'm just trying to experience life. So that would be like number one. That's like the number one mantra is I'm just trying to experience life. So I feel like and that's actually part of the reason why I'm on this interview is I thought about this like literally yesterday, and I was just like, that sounds like it'd be fun to just go on with Kendrick. And I'm like, now that I'm living by that code, it's like I don't have to figure out anything about going on with Kendrick. I can just hop on and be here, and like this is a cool experience. So I'm here. Um,
Yeah,
so that would be like number one mantra, I guess.
yeah. No, that's a really good one because that makes you more open to using your extroverted sensing at the bottom, right?
Mhm.
So that's
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, it's like the ST play and the SF consume. So Um, I remember Dave was telling me in my previous interview with him, he has to charge up to it though, like kind of what you're saying, because it's the same as him, right? You guys have the same like last two animals, like the play and consume, like the skib energy that he calls it. So he has to charge up to it, like he has to earn the right to play consume with a tribe. So I guess for you, your goal is to ultimately be able to pull it out of your pocket at any time. You don't need to charge it up. It's like
Yeah.
it's play consume time. This is my code. It's time to use it. Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, I'm gonna ask you next about your play since we're in this topic. ST play double feminine. So you do have it activated. It's there. You can use it when you need it, kind of like right now. Um, and your energy dom, so you're gonna be more on the goofy side supposedly. Can you share a little bit about you know, those anecdotes, like energy dom being more goofy and you know, playful, not so serious, and then we'll talk about the other parts of the play, but let's start with that.
Yeah. So I was talking with a friend about this the other day as well. I feel like what's going on with the info dom, because he's an info dom and my mother is also an info dom. So I'm sitting there like constantly trying to like figure out like what are the info doms doing? I don't understand. And I feel like what's going on is the infodoms are like, and he helped me kind of clean up my wording with it, but he used the word like flow state, and I feel like what's going on is like when I'm in an energy I'm if I'm in an energy state, it's like it's a flow state. It's very like it's that like the what is it, unconscious competence,
Yeah.
like the kind of like the mastery period. And then when the info comes out, it has to be in like a very like conscious state. It's like I'm trying to do the info thing with the info people, like I'm trying to sit down and have a conversation. The reason why I'm explaining all this is because I feel like the goofiness just sometimes is like a side effect, because if I'm in like an action flow state of what I would call it, an action flow state, so where you're constantly like what's the next action to take that will continue getting things. I feel like getting things done. I feel like that's kind of like a TE term, but I don't have a better word for it. So I feel like the goofiness comes out as a side effect of like I don't have time for a conversation. Let's just like haha, that's funny, throw a joke, make fun of it. Anyway, time to get back to work. Time to keep the actions flowing. And I feel like that's kind of the side effect of the goofiness. That's how I see it. It's like we don't have time to sit down and have a serious conversation about this, because I feel like the goofiness versus like serious anecdote kind of like it's like almost kind of there, but then I feel like it like breaks down when you really try to like measure somebody with that. Some people I feel are really obvious with like the info and energy dom, and then some people it's like so hard to tell. But anyway, so I feel like the goofiness comes out as like a result of like I don't have time for playing the info game, and then it like devolves into a back and forth joking because like, hey, I got to get back to work is kind of what it feels like. So anyway, that's my opportunity to blast out my theory there, and you can take it.
I'm just looking at it from your perspective because you are blast first. So your first animal is info, and then you have two energies in the middle, right? And then you have info again at the very end there. So so when you're saying we don't have time to go deep into the
Yeah,
info,
yeah.
I feel like um from someone that is an energy dom, like the energy dom and info dom, the way we converse are very different, you know. Like with info dom, you have to, or in energy dom, sorry, you have to get everything out first. You can take turns talking about information. It's not like you can interrupt someone midway and then snatch like a piece of that and add on to the piece, and then because yeah, it's like a straight blast almost for the energy dumps, you know, when you're providing information. But with the info dumps, it's not a straight blast. Like I can be talking and then you'll be like, hey, can I interject? I have this piece of information. I'm like, yeah, go ahead, you know. And then it's like a never ending, I'm gonna consume, I'm gonna blast, I'm gonna consume, I'm gonna blast. And it's like, oh, and the consume can is allowed to interrupt the blast to make the blast even better, you know, kind of deal. You know, well, like the blast, like I've taken time to organize my thoughts and I need to present it all in one big piece, and then you're gonna consume all of it, and then afterwards it's gonna be your turn to blast back to me, and I'm gonna consume everything, you know, because
Mhm.
they're
Yeah,
not,
that's really good. I like that description. Yeah.
yeah. And yeah, and it's just like it's just a different ways of communicating. Nothing wrong with that. And I think the way you're doing it's not a bad thing also because when you're saying, "Oh, we don't have time to have this deep conversation. Let's just goof off." It's in a way because when you goof around with the tribe, your energy goes up a little bit, right? Because it's like a little bit of fun. So it's like an energy break, almost like, "Hey, let's go get me a little bit of energy and go back to work." And I'm like, I'm feeling good, feeling positive because I just had this like positive tribe interaction, right? You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So
Yeah, yeah.
be used as a battery almost, you know, to feed the work. And it's kind of smart if you think about it. That's why energy dumps don't crash as much as like info dumps because like you guys are taking like this miniature breaks in between. It
Hmm.
could be as
Hmm.
simple as tribe interaction, using it as a battery, you know. So
Yeah, and I feel like that's to clarify what I was talking about a little bit. That's what I mean by like it feels like a conscious flow state on like the on like actions, but that action might be like the action might be take a break. Like that's part of the action chain where it's like continuously trying to be like break, work, break, work, break, work,
Yeah.
and keeping that going. And then yeah, I feel like with the infodoms, it's like I guess the way you described it really made me think it's like the same kind of a thing going on, but where you guys are constantly like trying to build on the information together. Like I love listening to infodoms. I wish I was like surrounded by infodoms all the time because it's like I see how, like I really love just the way the infodom conversations go and everything, and I'm like, why can't I like get to that?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember watching Dave's videos in his classes, and he's saying like he was saying something like he was talking to Shan. It's like, can we set aside 1 hour to info dom talk? Like, why can't we do it like those guys are doing? Like, we're fucking up conversations. That's what he's saying, right? And I'm thinking, I'm like, really? You can't do that? But it's easy. You just kind of you chat and you build up on information, kind of like what you're describing. I'm like, but it's actually hard for you guys. I didn't even know that it was actually like a thing, like it was a challenge.
Yeah.
But then when I flip the script too, I'm like, I can't the energy dom thing, I can't maintain it all day long. I have play first, so I have an energy animal on the front end, and I was doing a panel interview with the ESTP standard versus jumper, and the standard Samuel was sleep last ESTP, so it means that he's info dom, and then the girl Lauren, she's an energy dom, she's blast last, right? And I can see Samuel wants to infodom the whole conversation. But when he notices that Lauren's energy level starts dropping, he'll use enough play to energize her back up, and then he'll go back
Oh yeah, yeah.
to the infodom thing. You know, and that's
That's really interesting.
yeah. And if you watch Tim Ferriss, who's like play last, right, in INTJ like
Mhm.
you, um, he doesn't infuse the interview his interviews with energy. That's why his interviews can be really boring, even though if you hear the actual information that he's presenting, they're absolutely like gold. They're really good, but like that attention span of the viewers is going to be dwindling because there's not enough fun energy infused into it, right? You know,
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, he's just bored going through like his routines that he has. I feel in what I've listened to is he's just like, yeah, so I get up at 5 a.m. and I go and I look at my insert app here that I can't remember, and you know, like he's like monotonously going through
right?
through through it. It's crazy.
Yeah, and the ironic thing is he's ST last, but he has his ST routine. What's going on here? That's so confusing, right?
Hmm.
You know, because it should be like an he's describing ST routine, but he's ST last. Makes no sense. Uh,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, and it also makes sense why he's so attracted to lead plays. Like his interviewer, the people that he loves the most in his podcast, it's like Jocko Willing, for example. Oh, double activated ST play, right? Like he
hmm
even had him host his own podcast once, you know. And I was like, oh, I see what's going on. It's like, oh, they're it's the polarity. There's like that what do you call it?
attraction.
There's an attraction and also that what's the word I'm looking for? There's another word like a mutual curiosity for
Yeah,
what the opposite side looks like, right? So
Reci like reciprocity or something like that. Yeah.
maybe, I don't know. But like in your case, because you're blast lead play consume, maybe you have natural curiosity for the consume plays, or maybe you don't because you consume blast. I don't know, you know.
Uh,
So
yeah, I think my wife is probably an ESFP blast, so yeah.
oh, okay.
Kitty. Yeah.
Okay, there you go. So that's so interesting, for sure. And there's like the mutual attraction too, which I really find fascinating too, right? You know, it's like, oh, what the first example, your wife consume play sleep blast. Oh, they find the consume blast attractive, you know,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then you find those types also attractive. It's like, oh, very very fascinating. I just want to add one last thing before I move on to my next question. With the infodoms, I don't know if you've heard me talking when I'm talking to you that I'm always citing my sources. Like, oh,
Yeah,
Steve
yeah,
Ferriss
yeah.
podcast, my interview with Dave, my interview with the ESTP, standard versus jumper. Like, it's part of the consume is not missing. It's like, oh, I can cite you my sources for my information, but like the blast without the consume last, sorry. It's like what Dave says, an answer from God, kind of like it's like, where's your sources? And
Mm.
I always thought it was funny that Dave like makes fun of you guys because you guys are his type, right? Like he knows.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So, I've always thought INTJs were broken until like Dave kind of like showed like the class like this is what the actual INTJs are doing. They're not as you know as eloquent as you think they are. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one thing you point that out. I've really tried to be like really conscious of is if I'm sharing information, make sure I remember where it's from. If it's something that I haven't thought of, if it's not like an original thought. I think so far here I've shared pretty much only like any I don't think I've really cited anything, but I was actually so like last night when I was processing this interview, I was sitting there imagining for some reason I was sitting there like imagining as I'm trying to sleep and I feel like my NT is just like keeping me up. And I'm imagining I was sitting there imagining like in running through all these YouTube videos that I watch and like where I was getting these pieces of information in this fake conversation we were having. And like I was just like running through all these YouTube videos. It's all gone now though, but yeah.
I think your feminine sensory is not serving you in this situation.
No, no, it might be the time of the day too. I feel like right now I'm probably not at like peak performance as well. So
Sure. I just also remembered something while I was talking to you, and like you were explaining this stuff. I'm like, your vibe reminds me of someone, like another INTJ, but who? And then it clicked in my head because I was making some YouTube shorts a few days ago. Your vibe is very similar to Christian Bale, and you kind of look like him too. Uh,
oh yeah.
yeah, if you actually styled yourself differently, you could look like him. Um,
Hmm.
have you gotten that before?
No, I haven't. I've actually one person there was a I was going to they're called the craniofacial. I was getting some dental work done because my jaw was misaligned and I had like a click and it was opening all the way and I went there for about a year or so. And one of the like assistant ladies, she was getting me prepped for I think that was when I was going in to get like my teeth scanned so they could get like this molding put on top to hopefully realign my jaw. And the lady was like, "You look a lot like Kevin." I think it was Kevin Bacon, if my memory is serving me right. Which, funnily enough, I might have the name wrong, but I know who I'm talking about, and that person is in the OPS database, and he's an INTP. So that was a little bit interesting.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
speaking of Christian Bale, did you put out a short about him yelling at people?
No, I didn't put a short of him yelling at people. I was making a short of him with his masculine NI I made two shorts. So one was showing his masculine NI, like he was saying, I'm 100% sure I was gonna be the lead role for American Psycho, even though he was a no name at that point and whatnot. But
Oh yeah.
and he kept saying, even though the role was already given to someone else, he's like, no, we're still gonna make American Psycho. I'm still gonna be the lead role. Like the NI was so strong, and it did
Yeah.
happen. So he was right. And then I made another video of him talking about like not being prepared and being insecure when he's not prepared.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, yeah, I remember that one. I had there um I was thinking you had put out it might have been a short or a video where he's like really going off on a director at a set. I don't know if you've seen that. It's kind of funny, but also I'm a little bit like I feel like he needs to chill out a little bit. But he's freaking out at this director because he's like messing with the light in the background or something like that
Oh, is
while
this
he's
a bit of
doing
observer freak out?
yeah, yeah, he's like freaking out at the dude, but it's because he's just messing with the thing, and he's like, "What the F are you doing? Like, put it effing down! I'm gonna walk out of the set." Like he's just flipping out. It's so funny.
That's
Um,
SE chaos, eh? It's real.
wild. Speaking of which, the short you led me on a funny rabbit trail. Maybe my memory's not serving me again, but I'm pretty sure you put out the oh, what's the guy? The TENE. He's also masculine sleep. He was like in prison. Dave and Shan talk about him a
Oh,
lot.
oh, the one of him, um, saying obsessive, saying horrible things to the other guy. Uh,
Yep, yep, yep.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Did you like that one? I love that one. That's one of my favorites.
I immediately went, I have to go find what this is from and listen to the whole thing. So I went to like the Fresh and Fit or whatever,
Yeah,
like I went and watched the full. It was split in like three 20-minute parts or something, but it was so funny. And he kept on saying like the gay F word, and they're just like, you can't say that here. And he's like, oh, yeah, so funny.
I know it's horrible, but when he said it, I was kind of happy he did. I'm like, you're gonna get into even more trouble. This is great.
Yeah,
Like as a double
yeah,
insider, I'm like salivating at this. I'm like, yes, yes, drama,
yeah.
like
I agree 100%. It was super funny, and yeah, I was enjoying that a lot.
hmm, maybe I should send that video to Dave because Dave likes to make videos of like when your heroes fall. He made a video.
Oh,
Um, was
yeah.
it Jordan Peterson when and then also of David Goggins. Because like those are his heroes, but then there's videos of them falling. Like he
Mhm.
he also loves that guy, the valuetainment guy. But he's also put out videos on when he fell. So I think this is a good example of that this ESTJ guy. I don't know. We're both observers. We don't care about names for some reason. Like we both forgot his name. And I'm trying to remember. I'm like, what is his name? I don't remember.
I I always remember it, but it's just not there today. Yeah, well, who's the valuetainment guy?
Patrick Bet David.
Oh, that name is familiar. What does he do? Is he on YouTube or
Yeah, he's an ESTP. He does YouTube. He's interviewed like a lot of famous people, like um, you know, like Kobe Bryant, for example, and Shaq, and Andrew,
Oh,
Andrew Tate, you know, some mafias. He does a mix of interviews. He does explainer videos too. So he does a mix of both, you know. He's an EP, so he doesn't want to narrow down like his channel, right? So he
yeah.
makes a
Yeah.
bunch of different stuff. It works. It works. Clearly, it works. So,
Mhm.
um, so that's him. Yeah, but Dave did show a video of him, uh, like being in the wrong. Like he's absolutely flipping out, and Dave's like, it's like I love you, man, but like you're wrong here. Sorry, Patrick. Patrick, you're like,
I know who you're talking about now. Yeah, the face came to me. Yeah.
yeah, double
Yeah.
masculine class, yeah.
hmm Yeah. That
Uh,
guy's really interesting.
yeah. I like him to an extent, but like when he starts getting really inauthentic, I'm like, I start tuning out because I can feel it when he starts going like too inauthentic,
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Yeah, he does have a very like presenter vibe, I would say. Like he like that's what I would call it. But like he feels like he's always like presenting something to people,
yeah.
but he's not really there to like be himself, at least in what little bit I've listened to from him. But
Some number twos can't they can't do it properly. Like yeah, like Patrick Bet David, he's not doing it right, I think, with the vibe. Tony Robbins, he's very slimy too. Like when he talks, it's like very slimy salesman number two vibe,
Mhm.
So yeah, those guys are not doing it right. I think the one that's doing it right, that's the number two is Dana White, the UFC president, because he is actually sharing his FI a lot in his screen, you know. Like he'll say, like, I think this person's a piece of shit. Like he'll say stuff like that all the time, right? And I'm like, dude, I trust you more because you said that,
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. You know.
Yeah, I don't know much about Dana White. I'll have to go check him out after this.
Oh, yeah, I love. Yeah, he's like the ENTJ. Play, consume, blast, leave. I love Dana White. He's my favorite. One of my favorite ENTJs and number twos.
Mm.
He's not perfect. He does still do the number two selling spiel. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
but I think overall he does the authenticity thing pretty well, compared to others, compared to the other number twos at least. So, um, all right, dude, let's talk about your last animal since we're in this topic now. Uh, SF consume last. What parts of it do you see yourself doing of that SF consume last, and what parts of it do you see as a whole? That if you were to practice enough, would cover any holes in your game or holes in your personality, where you would be more solid, you're more complete, essentially.
Uh, Sorry, I was I was spacing out a little bit on that last part. So you're asking like what could I uh how could I use it to like fill in my personality a little bit more or fill in the gaps?
Yeah, so it's just two questions. So the first one is, where do you see yourself already? Like, what aspect of that asset consume do you see yourself already doing? So it could
Mhm.
be the gathering new information for self. It could be the SF itself, because it has a specific SF flavor, right? And then the second part is, what where in your personality do you see that SF consume being a gap? Where like if you were to practice it, you would be complete because essentially
Oh,
you would be.
I'll answer that first because that's like really easy. Number one, go to the store and get like new versions of clothes more often. 100%. Like right there, that's like a glaring problem for me where I'm like, I want to spend time to go actually look around and get clothes that I like, but right now I just have like a lot of really just like solid color shirts, things like that that they work, but I'm not really a huge fan of them. Um, so that's like the one thing that sticks out to me. And probably a little bit traumatized from being a child because I always put on like a striped shirt with plaid shorts. And my mom and sister and all the SF people around me or anybody that isn't SF last was coming after me for like, what the heck are you doing? So I'm like low-key traumatized from being a child and not getting clothes right. So um which I think I feel like Dave has talked about that with INTJs and consume last. I've been weird with clothes and like isn't the stereotype that they just like wear black all the time, just like pure black or whatever?
Yeah, black shirt and jeans, and
Yeah.
some ugly dad shoes, like
Yep.
New Balance or some shit. You know.
Oh, the dad shoes, those kill me.
But I like your point about updating the clothes though. I think that's chef's kiss. That's definitely a good advice for SF consume last INTJs.
Yeah, yeah. And then the first question, um, yeah, I feel like a lot of the way that I see myself doing consume right now is just usually it's like just shows I want to watch, books I want to read, and like games I want to play, things like that. It's just like it gets like recently I was reading the Stephen King the first book in the Shadow Tower series. I don't know if you're familiar with that. Um, but that was something that's been on my radar for like a couple of years, and I was like, oh, I want to go see how Stephen King does like a long. Do you know who Stephen King is? Are you familiar?
I know who he is, and I know he's like a lead TI or something. Like I think they,
Oh, you know him through the OPS system. That's funny.
yeah.
Um, so he's written like a absolute crap ton of books, and they're all like really highly acclaimed. A lot of them are horror novels, and things of that nature. So like It. Have you heard of the movie It by chance?
Uh, no.
Dang. Never mind. That must not be like yeah, you must not have much in that area.
Yeah, my FI is not.
Um, yeah, yeah. Um, so yeah, anyway, back to the question, but interestingly, I was sitting there reading the first book. It's called The Gunslinger, and there's a lot of these like just to me, it's really weird like sexual moments in there that I'm just like, huh? And then I found out after the fact that Stephen King was in the OPS database, and I realized he was an INTP, and I'm like, oh, that's right. Dave is always saying I don't know if this is true, but it's just kind of a joke. He's always saying that the lead TIs always have some kind of weird sexual stuff going on down there with the FE. And I'm like, maybe that's what's going on here. But anyway,
I
it
just
was it
remember
was
I just remember Dave saying that he thinks the INTP girls are really good looking in one of the videos.
oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
No, Dave talks about that with the Theo Vaughn. There was a Theo Vaughn video that he did where I guess Theo Vaughn does some kind of like weird naked yoga with like old ladies, and he's
Wait,
being like made fun of it with
Vaughn
about
is an
it.
INTP. I thought he was an ISTP. Am I getting this wrong? I'm like,
Well, excuse me, yeah, I was just talking about like the lead TI and FE
okay,
last.
sure,
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, and then Dave used that as a point to say like they have some like all the lead TIs have something weird like that going on, which I doubt, but I think it was more of like a joke. I don't know, but
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. It's possible. Like I have INTP friends and they do some perverted stuff. So yeah, for sure. But like everyone does kind of like so it's kind of like it's a kind of like a weak anecdote, right? Because like Dave said something horrible before too about like ESFPs, like saying, oh yeah, all the rapists are like the double masculine SF consume ESFPs, right?
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
and I'm like, when I heard that, I was laughing my ass off. I know, like, I know it sounds horrible. I know we're turning to like a dark topic now, but
Yeah.
it's kind of funny. But like, I was like, oh, really? So, um, You know,
Yeah,
like
yeah, Andrew Tate. He's a double masculine SF, isn't he?
is he? Let me check. Oh yeah, he is. Yeah, there you go, man. There you
And
go.
then he's going out and he's just exploiting all the women.
Yeah,
Oh,
he has the cam girl thing happening in the UAE and stuff. And I mean,
yeah.
he claims that they did it out of their own, like they volunteered to do it. But from the sound of it, they did it voluntarily, but he did groom them to get there. You know, he used his
Yeah.
NF blast to manipulate them to change their emotional trajectory over something.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, everybody's thinking that INFJs were just around to understand you. You know, that's like the stereotype, but no, they're just around to manipulate you for their cam business.
Yeah, yeah, no, yeah, dude. Like people only see the good side, right? But they're you can use everything for evil, and this guy is using it. It's not as bad as the allegation says though, but it's definitely not. It's definitely in the darker area, for sure.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Um. All right. So we've covered that SF consume now. Dude, every time I talk to you, like the more I realize, I'm like, dude, your eyes from above here, you're Christian Bale. Like yeah, 100%. He's double feminine like you also, right? He's blast, play, consume, sleep, INTJ. So if you were like an info dom, sleep blast, INTJ, you would be Christian Bale. So, um, so I thought that was kind of interesting. I'm like, oh, the look there is a clustering of like how, double feminine INTJs kind of look, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of them I've seen are wear like the same set of glasses I have right now too.
Yeah, yeah. I've seen Christian Bale wear those glasses. So yeah, yeah, 100%. So definitely for sure. Um, that means you could be Batman, man. That's a cool thing, you know?
I'd rather be the Joker.
Oh, you're
Sounds
right.
like more
The
fun.
opposite. The opposite more.
Yeah.
I see. I see.
Speaking of which, I do love that. Have you ever seen the the newest live action Joker movie? It's pretty old now, but with Phoenix something, whatever his name is. I think
Joaquin,
he's an INFP.
Joaquin Phoenix. Phoenix.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You like that one?
Yeah, yeah, I do. What do you have an opinion on it?
Oh, I hated that
Or have
movie.
you seen? You
Absolutely.
hated that movie.
Oh yeah, me and
Okay.
my friends, we saw it in theaters. We're like, this is garbage. This movie's trash. It
Okay. What don't you like about it? I'm curious.
was boring. I don't know what to
Oh,
say.
you thought it was boring. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, I get how he became Joker. I get the psychological, transformation. How his life made him go insane, and eventually he became that way. I get that, and I love Joaquin Phoenix as an actor. Like he's, the movie Gladiator. He used I can't think of anyone being the evil emperor than him. Like he absolutely nailed that role. He should have gotten an Oscars for that, in my opinion. He was so good at being that insecure, like number one.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I haven't seen the movie in a really long time, so I'll have to go and update on that one.
Oh yeah, my ISTP friend loves that movie. He keeps quoting stuff from that movie. Like what my friend's favorite line in that movie is like Joaquin Phoenix saying like, it's like because his father doesn't approve of him in that movie, right? So he's like, I have other virtues too, but none of them is in your list. It's like wow, that's so good. It's such a good like no like insecure number one, and I'm like. I love it when the number ones get really insecure. It's like the perfect like in a movie setting. It's like the perfect like it's so desperate. It's like I'm the best. Can you tell me I'm the best? You know,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love that like desperation, and they're willing to do all the evil stuff to get that recognition. That they're the best. But like deep down inside, they know they're pathetic. I love it. I can fucking love it.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's just my little FI tangent there.
Yeah, no, I love it. That like to me, I'm like, oh, store that one away. I need to go check that movie out because that's got me really interested. So
Yeah, yeah. If there was a movie that portrays insecure number one, that would be it for
mhm.
sure. He made another movie recently, Napoleon, that was also really bad. I'm like, why is this Joaquin Phoenix keeps making bad movies recently? You know, like it's a Napoleon movie. How can you fuck this up? Napoleon Bonaparte. He has such a cool history, and you fucked up this movie. I mean,
Yeah,
okay, maybe that's just my opinion, but they made it a decider movie, which is horrible. They made it about him and his relationship with this woman, and then I was like, what? I want to see the cannons being blown up. I want, Napoleon's known for being an amazing strategist, right? And an artillery, what do you call it, commander or whatever. And I'm like, I want to see him like position those cannons and like how he apparently he was good. He had like a 3D vision in his head, where he can like 3D vision the terrain of any battlefield, and then that's how he was able to position the cannons really well. And
interesting.
Yeah, and I was like, they didn't do any of this shit. I'm like, are you kidding me? They made it an insider movie about his relationship with this woman. I'm like, are you kidding me?
That does sound really disappointing because like I feel like you could get a lot like a love story or whatever anywhere else, but you're here for like the Napoleon stuff, like what you're talking about, the specifics. Oh, I think you're muted.
Oh yeah, thanks. I was saying like they could have added it as a side thing going on in the background, the love story, which is
Mhm.
cool. But for you to not make that the main point, that's blasphemy. Like they only did one scene where like you could see Napoleon's brain like turning, or they had to fight. I forgot which country it was. Maybe it was the British or something, or it could be like one of the other European countries. But they were fighting on an ice lake, and Napoleon trapped them. They made them go to the middle of the lake so he can fire cannons at the lake to make the water, the ice collapse and make all the opponents drown. I was like, oh, when they finally showed up, I'm like, finally, there we go. This is what I came for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You came for yeah, the Napoleon strategist
Yeah, I want to see
story.
war. Okay, dude, I want to see war. I want to see like, fighting. Okay. Okay. I don't want to see him going emo. I don't care. You know? You could relate like as an energy dom observer as well. You're like, I want things blowing up. I want things like,
I actually don't think I'd agree with that.
oh, okay, well, I want to hear your perspective then.
Yeah, yeah. So going back to the Joker, I feel like for me, I feel like a lot of what I'm looking for when I like watch a movie is I want to see like the action scenes are actually really low on. They can be really good, and some movies pull it off really well, and that's cool. But it's a lot of like I'm looking for the movie to do something new that I haven't seen before. Like in execution, so whether it executes like so for the Joker, for instance, I feel like it executes like that sporadic like mental state that the Joker is in very well until it's like I feel like I haven't seen a movie do that before. So for me, like when he decides when the coworkers come in and he just starts stabbing one of them, and then there's like the little midget one that he lets off, like the amount of weird like that scene is like gold to me because the amount of the execution of like the emotions are just all over the place where he's like killing a guy and it's really intense, and then there's like he's like walking up to the midget very slowly, and then it's like casual, he's having like a casual conversation, it's like, oh, now we're in like casual mode, and then he like lets him out, and then he like does a little jump scare, and there's like a joke in there where he goes like boo, and it's like you have all these different emotions going on in the scene and it's all over the place, and I feel like that's what the movie was for me. That was at least part of what made me like it. So
I feel like he wasn't acting in that movie. I think he was just being himself because
oh
he's the INFP, right? Double masculine, feminine FI. And I think that feminine FI is the time bomb. So I think like maybe you were attracted to what the feminine FI is like, because that's what the Joker was portraying, like kind of unstable emotional state,
mhm,
which
mhm.
is what feminine FI is. No offense to feminine FI people, but yeah, you are unstable technically. So I am making fun of you directly. Luckily, this is the tail end of the interview, so if you didn't see this, me making fun of you, but it's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, no, I do like the feminine FI, like the unstableness of it. Like I think it's like amazing. Like who else is like oh Ed Milet, like they love him in the classes.
Mhm.
Have you seen him go
Yeah.
like have you seen him go full feminine FI also in his videos?
I don't think so.
Yeah, he did. They did a timing video of him and this church guy, this priest guy. Um, and he kept bowing to the guy because he's like he's a number four and he's a DE. He just kept bowing. And then the guy he was interviewing was also an ENTJ, so they kept bowing to each other. And then they kept yelling at the screens, like, stop bowing at each other, stop it. You know, they just kept like taking
That's
turns bowing at each other.
that's so funny.
Yeah, and then Ed Milan is like, he's like feminine empire. He's like, I just want to let you know, I really like you. It's so funny. It's like, and then like, and then
Uh,
and then Shannon was like laughing, and Dave's like, And they're like, I love his feminine F5. It's so good. Like it was supposed to be a timing video about the other guy, but it became out in my lead because like he kept doing the feminine F5 stuff, So yeah, no, for sure. Okay, dude. One last question, and then we'll wrap up the interview. Okay. Social type. Okay, so this is unknown at the moment because you got type 3 years ago. So right now it's still under investigation what your social type is.
Mhm.
Um, so the one thing that you seem sure about is savior flex. Okay. Um, can you share a little bit about like what made you come to the conclusion that you have savior flex and that is the one part of all the other parts that you seem more confident about?
Uh, yeah. So that would be like uh I mean, firstly, when the social types were being put out, um, there was, I think one of like the first ones that Dave kind of touched on. Well, technically, there was like a really old social type video where it was like a prototype you can find really deep in the archive, but um, it wasn't called social type at the time. Excuse me. But when the first video I think Dave covered, or one of the first ones I remember was there was the like bodybuilder guys, and Dave was showing how there's like the one who was the number 4 who didn't push as hard as he should have to win the award, and then there was the other, and they're both like the ESTP. I can't remember their names, but and for me, like he started unveiling what the number 1 was, and I was like instantly like the flex part. I was like, I have that. I know what he's talking about because what it I feel like anything that I touch that I feel like I'm gonna like sign my name to is I look at like who's competent in this area, and I instantly look for the top person, like the most competent person, and then I'm aiming for that. It's just like an immediate measuring, and it's like putting myself in the game, and like I'm playing the game, and I'm putting my name in here to try to be good at this thing. So I'd say that's like the number one, like that drive to just, and like I don't care if friends are along for the way if they're joining me in the process or whatever, like they're left in the dust. It's just like immediately um playing that kind of ego game, I guess.
Right, that makes sense. So the other coin to check then is your friend's coin. Do you have real friends in real life, or you not have any?
No, I have a history of ghosting people. Like legitimately, most of my friends in my life, I've ghosted. If they don't contact me, I don't contact them. And I've actually thought about this. And when I was a child, I never went out of my way to make a friend. Ever. I literally can remember every single friend, and I never went out of my way to make one. It was
So
always people being attracted to me, and I felt like they were bothering me. Like as a kid, as like a 4-year-old, other kids were bothering me. I didn't want them to be bothering me.
I see. Okay. And then but what about what actually happened in reality? Do you actually have real friends? Because you said you ghost people a lot, but do you still have real friends though?
Uh, I have a wife and I have one really good friend. Yeah.
Okay, so you have one really good friend. Okay, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Can you share like what happened with that really good friend? How come that friendship stuck?
Uh, because probably because he just kept bothering me, and he literally like forced a relationship, and it just got built over time, and now I'm like, I'm not gonna get rid of you. I can't.
Oh, because like your FI, he's already inside the FI, and then it's like, okay, I'll just keep him there, kind of deal.
Oh, it's like it's not even FI. I feel like it's so much. It would just be like a huge chunk of my life would be missing as far as like somebody to run things by or to talk about. And he's also an info dom, so he always brings really interesting things to the conversation. So
What has he been typed already? Is he the INTP or?
yeah, yeah, he is. Yeah.
Oh, I see. That's weird that the person that forces way in to be your friend is an IP, which is supposed to be even more selfish
Play
than.
last. Play last.
Yeah, that makes. What's his so? Did he get his social type too?
He
Also.
hasn't. We've both speculated number 4 is most likely.
Oh, I see. Okay. So
Yeah,
that's why you think
yeah.
you're number 1, because number 1's best friend and mortal enemy is number 4. And also, um, yeah, okay. That kind of that's everything's starting to add up now. Okay.
Yeah. My
Um,
wife is probably number 4 as well. I
there
got
is,
it like yeah. Anyway, go ahead.
yeah, no, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised, but it sounds like there is still an argument for 3. There is still an argument for 3.
Oh,
Uh,
100%. Yeah, I'm not denying
yeah.
that. Yeah.
Because the fact that you have one friend that's stuck. Because I have interviews with number ones with zero friends. You have one. And I have a lot of number threes that I've interviewed. They have a lot of them have one friend. So
Oh, okay. Okay.
this is like a pattern I've been kind of archiving. I'm like, oh, a lot of number threes have one friend, but a lot of number ones have zero friends. Number threes can be one or higher. Like there are number threes with more than one friend, but the average from the ones I've just interviewed all have one. Like Lijo, one friend, right?
Really? Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, because
Is her social type? Is she officially a 3?
yeah, she's officially a three. And when I spoke to her, I'm like, can you tell me about your friends and stuff? She's like, she has a lot of acquaintances. She's friendly to people. But in terms of real friend, it sounds like she had one. I'm like, oh, interesting. And I interviewed this other lady. She was an ISFJ jumper. She had two friends, and she only saw them like twice a year on each other's birthdays. And I'm like, oh, fascinating. And then another number three I interviewed, the husband, he's an INFJ playlist of the ISFJ lady, and he was like, he has zero friends. I'm like, oh, so if you're number three, you could have zero friends too. And then the ENFP girl that I interviewed, who's a um, number three, also said zero friends. I'm like, oh, so as a number three, it could be from zero to two is the average. Uh, One seems to be like the sweet spot, one really good friend, and then there's like the weird one, the weird number two with lots of friends. But those are like maybe the higher play number threes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. But like a lot of number ones have no friends. Like it's absolutely crazy, like zero. Like I'm trying to think right now. Did I interview any number ones that actually had any real friends? No, no, there's none.
Yeah,
I can't think of anything. I have to like rewatch some of my old interviews. I can't think of anything. They don't have any friends. You have one. So
that's weird.
that's why there's like an argument for three, because that's
Yeah.
it's like the three sweet spot is one friend. Um, and a lot of the stuff that you said right now, I've heard a lot of other number three say it's like, I don't want to hang out with people. I'll be friendly with them. I'll talk about like shallow stuff, but then
Oh, I don't even want to do that. I can get really stingy with like the vibe when it comes to people coming and talking to me, where like if I don't know them, I try to like shut it down as quick as I can. I don't even like being friendly with people like that I randomly see in the store or whatever. I'm just like, don't talk to me. I don't want to talk to you.
oh, I see. I guess this is where your
Yeah.
double masculine sleep is kicking in, where it's like I'm inside my world. I'm good.
Yeah.
My vibe is good. Fuck off.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
100%. Yeah.
yeah. Okay, that makes sense. All right, dude. Well, we'll wrap up the interview here. So, thanks for reaching out to do the interview and sharing more about what you're like. And let me know once you finally get that official social type. I'm really curious what you end up as.
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure.
All right, take care.
Yeah.